Welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming. I'm so pleased to see that we have a filled room. I'm Professor Neitz. Those of you who have had me in class know that I wander around, but today I can't. I am bound between this and this for purposes of the videotape, so I will stick to that. So I want to let you know there's a sign-in sheet going around. Please make sure we have your information so that we have registered that you're interested in externships. And I'm going to do an introduction, and then the real point of today is for you to meet the professors and the students who are involved in externships that you might be interested in. That's, I think, where the real value of today will come from. So Golden Gate really believes in work experience. Like every other lawyer in practice, work experience is critical to your success as a law student. And what we've done here at Golden Gate is build an externship program that will enable you to work in the real world and get credit for it. So you can build it right into your course schedule. That's the difference between internships and externships. An internship is something you do either for pay or for free, but you don't get academic credit for it. And I'll talk later about the differences between these and why externships might be more valuable to you as a law student. So with an externship, you work with a practicing lawyer or a judge, and then you also attend a seminar, a class component that's required by the ABA in order to get the credit for it. What I'd like to do, and some of the first years might have already seen my slides related to this, but I think it's worth repeating. Why should you do an externship? So I boiled down the top 5 reasons, because we're all outliners here who like lists, the top 5 reasons you should do an externship. And reason number 1, above everything else, is networking. Right? If you spend 3 years within our hallowed halls here at Golden Gate, you'll have a wonderful experience and we will love to see you here. However, when you graduate, the only people you're going to know are your fellow students and your professors. And that's a problem. It's really important that you know lawyers. In whatever city or area you want to work in, it is critical that you have a list of mentors and resources, people you can call when you graduate or even before you graduate and say, I'm about to graduate, what do you recommend I do for bar study? Or I'm a second-year law student. Here's my resume, where's the hole in it? How can you help me? These are the folks you're going to want to know when you graduate, and it's really important that you build up that mentoring list as a law student, starting in your first year. The second reason is experience. I met last week with the executive director of a nonprofit who said when resumes come into her nonprofit, they don't look at grades, and they don't look at schools, they look at where did that person work. Because that's what's going to be most important to them in terms of what can that intern or associate bring to the table. So it's critical for you to have experience on your resume. It shows employers that you know how to go to a law office, you understand how lawyers operate, you know what to wear, you know what to say, you know what it's like to be a lawyer. Those are things I won't have to train you in if I hire you right out of law school. It's also important though that you know what type of law do you like and what type of law do you not like? So when I entered law school, I wanted to be a public defender. That was my goal. And I went to the San Francisco Public Defender's Office for a summer, my first summer of law school, and I got put on the most high-profile, exciting homicide case in the entire office. I had other interns coming up to me saying, you're so fortunate, you're so lucky, how did you get placed on that case? And my second or third day on the job, my supervising attorney, who I'm actually still in touch with, she's a dear friend, she handed me the pictures of the dead body and said, these are for the jury exhibit. I need you to arrange these in a way that will make the jury feel a little bit better about this case. And I started this project and I said, I don't think I can do this work anymore. I think I'm done. I went to my supervisor, I said, I love you, I love working for this. And on this case, but I just don't think this work is for me. So they put me into drug court, which was very touchy-feely. Yay, everybody's doing great. I loved it. And you know what? Another intern who was much more interested in the homicide case got put on the work. Now, actually, my supervisor got an acquittal in that case. It was a really great case for the office. Why do I tell you that story? I have never, in all the years I've been a lawyer, wondered if I should be a criminal defense lawyer. Why? I did it. I went out, I did the work as an extern, and I know it's not what I wanted to do. Those who don't have the same experience, people who just stay in one path all through law school, they don't know necessarily what they don't like. And sometimes, folks, that's more important than knowing what you do like, right? Being able to narrow it down, that's what externships are about. Okay? So, reason number 3, your resume. If you graduate from here or any law school with a resume that is all classes and student organizations, you have a big hole in your resume. Now I'm hopeful that our career services office won't let that happen, right? But you need to have some sort of real world experience on your resume for the reasons I'm talking about. In order to have a competitive resume in this economy, you must have some real world experience on it, okay? Reason number 4, well, this is obvious, right? I mean, I love Golden Gate, I'm here all the time, but going off campus can be really valuable to you. It will enable you to bring real world experiences into your classrooms. This is why I like teaching 3Ls, because they can contribute in a PR class as to what they've seen out in the world, right? So going off campus is another bonus. And with an externship, you go off campus and then you get credit for it, right? And the last thing that people don't often talk about in law school is confidence. If you have worked in law offices, when you walk in for an interview for a job as a lawyer, you'll understand how the office works. If you've worked in a law office, if you want to go into private practice, you know how to bill, right? That's something that you're able to say in an interview that will give you the confidence in an interview to be able to say that. And so the confidence of knowing how law offices work is my reason number 5, okay? Now, today is great because you're going to get a sampling of all the different types of externships available. Before I go on and talk about the eligibility requirements, I want you to understand the differences between the type of externships we offer here and the clinical opportunities that we offer here. So I'm going to introduce Professor Hina Shah, who is right over here, right over there, to talk about our in-house clinics, and then we'll talk a bit about our off-campus opportunities.
Great, thank you so much for sharing the space. I just want to let folks know, if you don't know, I'm sorry, that we have 2 in-house, there are 2 in-house clinics at Golden Gate, the Women's Employment Rights Clinic and the Environmental Justice Clinic. These are real law offices on campus. So what's the advantage of doing clinics versus externships? My advice is you should do both. The clinics, however, you have the convenience of not leaving campus because we're right at the 40 Jesse Street building. But the other really important thing about doing an in-house clinic is that the professors who are Golden Gate faculty are your mentors and your supervisors. So you are going to get a lot more one-on-one supervision and feedback on everything that you do. And you will have the benefit of working in a real law office, representing real clients, doing real litigation work. If you want to practice as a lawyer, even if you're not interested in environmental law or employment law, you should do one of the in-house clinics because you're going to get the kind of guidance and supervision that you may not necessarily get in an externship. Or that you get it but not as much. You meet weekly with your supervisor, there's an open door policy, and the level of feedback and criticism, well, not criticism, feedback and constructive guidance you get on how to practice law is invaluable. And the other thing is that if you want to practice law, you should do some kind of practical legal experiences. I have seen way too many resumes of students who, by the time they're graduating, have nothing on their resume. So please, please don't do that. And we have a couple of students here, also the environmental fellow is here, who can answer questions. So back to you.
So that's one of your options, is in-house clinics, which, as Professor Shah says, is a great way to get real-world experience by just going across the alley, right, and not going into an law office. Now, there's another way that you could do this, which is an off-campus externship. You'll still get academic credit for it. And the way this works is you can go out and find the externship yourself. You can decide what type of law you want to do. We have resources for you, and Susanna Ronowitz is here to talk about what those resources are online to enable you to find an externship. Once that happens, then you can apply to us for the credit, and I'm in charge of approving it. So just convince me that it's a good placement for you, and I'll approve it, okay? And so those are, you'll be paired then with students at Golden Gate who are doing very similar work. So that's how our civil field practice clinic works, where all the people doing civil field placements are grouped together so that you'll get to learn from your colleagues who are doing similar work. We have a criminal litigation clinic, we have a family law clinic, and a judicial clinic, where everybody who's working for a judge for credit meets once a week to talk about, here's what we're learning from the judges, okay? Now, so that's another way to go. Go find your own, or ask us for help in finding a placement that interests you. We are also in the process of determining clinics for the fall 2014 and spring 2015. You should be thinking about this in the summer, the fall, or the spring. And that's our Veterans Benefits Clinic, our Homeless Advocacy Clinic, Consumer Rights Clinic, and our Capital Post-Conviction Defense Clinic. Okay, and in those are ready-made placements. You don't need to go out and find a placement. We have those all set for you. Okay, so 3 different ways that you can get credit for your externship. So let's talk about who's eligible to do this. At a minimum, you must have had 1 year of law school under your belt. So guess what, folks? Come May, even if you're a 1L, you'll have a year of law school under your belt, and you'll be eligible for this. Every unit that you get credit for is 45 hours of work. So it's 1 unit for every 45 hours. And you're capped at 13 units. That means you could take up to 13 of your units in law school working out in the world, getting networking experience, building your resume, experience itself, and still getting academic credit for it. So why should you do an externship and not volunteer? Well, I volunteered in law school, and it was great. Built up my resume, gave me the networking I needed, convinced me what type of law I wanted to do and what type I didn't, but I didn't get any credit for it. Which meant if I was in a position with a supervisor where I wasn't happy, which did happen, of course, as you know, I managed to figure out a way to make it better. If I had been in an externship, I could have said to the professor running my class, I'm having this problem, and the school could have helped me either to figure out what to do, my colleagues could have helped me, I could have stepped in, an externship director could have stepped in. Okay, so the school has your back when you have an externship versus an internship. Also, you're going to get a lot of support and guidance from your fellow students and the professors, and you'll be connected within our law school walls. You'll be connected to those who want to do similar work. So if you are doing a criminal litigation placement, you'll get to know your fellow students who are interested in criminal law. Also, I don't think I have to tell you, the fewer classes you can take, for some students that sounds great, right? So you can get up to 13 credits working off campus. That's 1 less class you'll need to take for those credits. Okay, and student services is really good at balancing people's needs related to academic credit. Lastly, you will also satisfy your experiential learning requirement. The State Bar, I'm actually on a task force for the State Bar of California. We are moving in the direction here in this state of requiring 15 units of experiential learning before you graduate. Hasn't happened yet. If you're a 2L, it's probably not going to happen for you. But an externship out in the world will satisfy that. Okay? Are there any questions for me at this point? I'm going to be around for the whole hour, so you can always come up to me afterwards. Yes?
I think with an externship you have to take a course at the same time, right? Or it's like...
Yes, it has to be complementary. So if you have an externship, like we have a student right now who's at a mediation office in Northern Ireland, and she's getting academic credit for it, and I'm just supervising her on what we're doing it online. Right? So it does have to happen at the same time, but you don't have to physically be present on campus necessarily if you're doing an externship for credit somewhere else. Right? We've had students in Asia, in Europe, in Africa. You can go, the sky's the limit, really, with your creativity. Okay? Yes?
Is it available for LLM students?
Yes, my understanding with LLM students, and maybe Professor Rupper can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that you don't need the credit for it because that's built into your LLM program, but you can still do the externships to get the experience. Correct? Thank you. Yes?
Just out of curiosity, how come the class hours don't count towards the 45 hours required per unit?
That's because the ABA actually sets out how schools are supposed to do this. And so the credit that you're receiving is for the actual work you're doing in the office, but they require the complementary hours of class.
Okay, sorry. Another one is if you were taking it for, like, say, 2 units, that'd be 90 hours. Say you work a couple full-time days a week, and you fulfill that within February, March.
That's fine.
But then you still have to attend the rest of the classes.
Oh, then you still have to attend. Oh, I thought we could bunch it up.
Well, I think we have, Professor Rupper can correct me if I'm wrong. We prefer, and the placements prefer, that you stretch it out over the course of the semester. It's a better learning experience because you see cases unfold, you see work unfold, and it's the expectation of your supervisor that you would be there that whole time. We've had students who have worked more hours than they've registered for, and so if they choose to, they can add another unit if they feel like, hey, I did this work and I want to add that to my schedule. Some students just do the hours even though they don't need to for the school's purpose. Also, the longer you're there, the more value you add to the organization, the better it is for references and relationships and all of that. I don't know if Professor Repperk has anything else.
Just briefly, we generally encourage people to do their first externship for at least 3 units, because full immersion, and you could be there full time, would be the best way to learn from the other the lawyers in the placement and the work that you're seeing. But if you can only do it for 2 units, and you do have to take 3 units of experiential learning at some point in your law school career. But if you can only do it for 2 units, or you only do it for 2 units, that's okay, but you need to work it out with the attorney who's supervising you so that professional responsibility is involved here, and you can't just say, well, I'm not going to show up anymore, I'm done with my hours.
Oh, certainly not. No, I hope that didn't give that impression. That would not be
If you
okay.
want to short circuit your time, you need to check with Professor Neitz, because our rules require you to work, I think, a minimum of 8 weeks, 10 weeks during the semester. I remember whether it's 8 or 10
During the 14-week semester. So bunching it up in the first 3 weeks, which I think I misspoke, is not permitted usually. And so you do have to think about the impression that you're making on your employer as well. Yes?
Well, can I just make a quick comment about the requirements, because there's always confusion. The in-house clinics have a different hour requirement. It's a higher requirement or spread out over a longer time period. So it is different than the externships, but you also get a much more immersion experience where you're actually integrated into the case and represent clients at hearings and argue motions in court. So it is a higher requirement, but it allows you a fuller immersion from.
Right. The more hours you're there, the more you learn, the more useful you are to the lawyers in practice. Right? Yes?
Just speaking for the civil field placement externship, we require in the fall and spring a minimum 12 weeks of working, however you spread your hours out, because of our experience with our placements. They don't want students who are going to come in for a short period of time. They want it to be a valuable experience for them also. So that's based on years of experience and keeping our placements happy also.
Okay. Other questions? Yeah.
Is it possible to get pro bono hours if you go over the amount of units that you signed up for? So for instance,
Pro bono hours to count toward.
just I think the school has like the pro bono. You can get a pro bono award, or you can get pro bono credit, and I'm wondering, can some of those, as opposed to doing it through the program the school has, is it possible to get credit from the hours that you've gone over for your units?
Okay. I think the answer.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
Cynthia Chandler would be the, oh, wow. Wow.
Just
I
Cynthia, literally.
Just
come
back. We didn't play that. So Cynthia, there's a question on the floor. If a student satisfies their externship hours and stays at their placement to work additional hours,
Yes.
volunteering their time, can that be counted towards our pro bono honor society or pro bono stuff?
Yes, it can, as long as the work is considered the kind of work that fits under our pro bono definition. So some folks do externships, say, at like a private firm, okay, where the work isn't necessarily helping an underserved community, or folks who are sort of either economically disenfranchised or have less means. If the work was serving that population, or if you were working at a government agency or a nonprofit, then it would count. So your extra hours could be used for the pro bono certificate.
Good
I'm
timing.
gonna go
Thank
find
you.
a seat.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to welcome Dean Aronowitz to come up and talk to us about how we can find things online. Oh, is it? It is. Just go to the browser. Sorry, that was my. Okay, great.
Hi, everyone. So now I actually can stand up instead of typing in from down there. So LCS is here to help you find your experience or opportunity, whether it is for externship credit, a paid experience, a volunteer experience. Anytime you are trying to find some sort of work opportunity with a legal employer, we are here to help you. So you should be coming in and working with our counselors to review your cover letters, your resume, preparing for interviews, the whole process. We are here to help you. It doesn't matter to us kind of the way you're being recognized for your time. So whatever the experience is, come work with us. Sooner is better because we might want to spend more time working on your materials and helping you identify opportunities. there are a few resources within LCS Online that I will show you to help you identify opportunities. So as we talked about, there are placements where we have a long history and students have worked there, and so if those places interest you, terrific, I'll show you how to find them. But you're not limited to that. As Professor Needs said, if you have a particular interest and want to go find an organization that would satisfy your desire for getting legal experience and meet the requirements of the program, terrific, and I'll show you some resources today that can help with that, and certainly working with a counselor one-on-one, we can identify some other resources or help you with your research to identify those opportunities. So the first place I would look at LCS Online, and hopefully this is not the first time you're seeing this, it would be the job listings. So if you look in the LCS Online job listings, we call them job listings, but again, this is our broad, it's very broad. We have internships, externships, paid work, all kinds of things here. And you want to keep your eye on the job listings and see, what's being posted. If an organization is saying, we want to hear from GGU students, well, make your life easier and apply to those opportunities instead of trying to find something out in the world. One way you might sort through this, see here, there's this practice areas category. You could select, we have all of our externships here, and if this is an organization that we know has worked with our externship program in the past, you might sort of filter the job listings to see just those organizations that have had some prior affiliation with our externships, and so that will, again, give you a focused way to look. And so this lists the different opportunities. You can click on them, open it up to get more details about what the position is, what the application process is. So that's probably the easiest way to find opportunities, is looking right in our job listings. If an organization has had students in the past, but maybe it just hasn't occurred to them to send us an announcement right now, you might try to figure out who those folks are and write to them directly. So one way to do that would be to look in our Browse Employers portion of LCS Online, and that's just our large employer database. And again, you would, don't mean to do that, I meant to click more options. Again, if you go to this Practice Areas and Clinics drop-down menu, you could select the kind of externship you're most interested in, and just do a search right there. And this will pull up contact information for the different organizations that have been affiliated with that externship in the past. It does not guarantee they're looking for a student for this summer or this fall, but it does let you know they've had some experience working with students. They're not, it would not be a new concept to these organizations to take on a law student for a semester. So it's a bit warmer of an audience than just contacting folks without any prior connection. And so you can sift through here. You can also search by keywords or focus it in on different kinds of organizations. And when you click on these organizations, you'll get contact information about them. We often have descriptions of their work. This one doesn't have that much, but at least gives you some contact information, and you might reach out to them. In working with us, we can help you compose a letter. When you're writing to an organization that has not specifically requested your application, we can help you frame that accordingly. Other great resource here that I encourage you to use are the student evaluations. At the end of your externship experience, the school requires students to complete an evaluation of their externship. And if the students permit us to, we put them here on LCS Online so that future students can get a sense of what those experiences are. So if you see here where it says Browse Student Employer Evaluations, simply click there. I recommend actually not using a whole lot of filters here, because with any of these searches, if you put too many categories, you might miss things. But if you wanted to see students who have done the civil practice externship and have worked in California, you'll now see a long list of different evaluations that students have posted about their work. And you can click on the evaluation, read what the student had to say. I mean, the good stuff is sort of in this section where they can describe the work. So it isn't so much, is it good or bad, but what did you do there? What kind of work, what kind of feedback, what were you exposed to? Would you recommend this opportunity to other students? And so you, as a prospective extern, can look at that and say, oh, that sounds exciting. That seems like a great place for me to work. You might even follow up with the student who wrote the evaluation if they gave you their contact information. And so you might follow up with that student, I just read your evaluation of that place. Could I chat with you about your experience there? If you're even more excited now, you might mention that in your cover letter, right? I really want to work for your organization. After speaking with your former extern, Jane Smith, I'm even more excited about the kind of supervision and training that you offer. And doing that kind of name dropping with that student's permission can actually be very helpful in getting your application noticed by that organization. So don't overlook this, and as a reminder to all of you upper division students out there, remember to submit evaluations, whether you're working for credit or pay or as a volunteer. These are a great resource for the rest of our community. So, I think those are, and so any questions about the resources we have or how to work with LCS in finding a position? Keep an eye on the listings, apply to things as soon as you see them, because spaces for summer are opening up, employers are turning their attention to fall, so we don't want you to wait too long, we do want you to start getting your materials out there.